everyone. I just wanted to let you know that we had some problems with Stanford's mic on this episode, and so it created some rough sounds in a few segments, but I still thought that it was strong enough and there was enough good in there to put it out there, and so hopefully that won't be too much of a struggle for you. But anyway, I wanted you to know that we were aware of that and felt like it was still strong enough to put out. So thanks so much and enjoy this episode of Obscure Animation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Obscure Animation. And every month we come on this podcast and we talk about an underappreciated animated film, usually a smaller film that we want to celebrate. And it's so much fun. Today we have a very special film from this last year, actually.
Yeah,
I thought would be very cool to talk about, something recent. And so I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hi, how's it going?
Yes, I'm doing very well. I survived Christmas.
Yay.
So, yay.
I mean, seriously, Rachel. Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
I have felt kind of wrung out this whole month. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, who can blame you? You need recovery time after all.
I know, and just trying to get ready for Sundance and all of that. It's been a weird. I felt kind of a weird month, and then I got this little bit of a cold, and so it's interesting, but yeah. So I thought it would be cool to talk about the smaller animated films of this last year. And I the reason why I thought of it is because I received a screeners kit from G Kids with a bunch of their smaller animated films that they're promoting. Some of them I had seen, like Promare I'd seen Oko's Inn, but I hadn't seen this. Several of them that I really enjoyed. There's one called Buñuel and the Magic Turtles or something like that, about a famous director, Louis Buñuel, and it was very creative. He was a little insufferable for too long. Sometimes it got a little repetitive, but it's definitely worth watching. Check it out. So that was interesting. And then there's another one called Morona's Fantastic Tale, about a little doggy that was very, very cool visually, very different. So maybe someday we'll do either one of those films.
Which would be fantastic, because
yes.
I love all these international films. This is they're fascinating, many of them. A lot of them aren't necessarily my cup of joe, but that's okay. They don't have to be, I just think they're interesting to see these different animation styles and these different stories that they're telling.
Yeah. Well, even if you don't love them, I feel like most of the time there's something to appreciate, to gain from it. It's a good experience, I feel like. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So but yeah, so the one I wanted to pick is a movie called Funan that, honestly, if I had waited a little bit longer to do my best of the year list till after I had watched these screeners, I would have included it on my best of the year list, because I think this movie is excellent. It's a tough watch. It's pretty brutal, but I really thought it was a beautiful story about family in the end, and the animation was so beautiful, and it is available right now. You can go on any of your streaming, on YouTube or I think on iTunes. You said you watched it.
Yeah, that's what I watched. It was I rented it on iTunes. Yeah.
So it's available now pretty easily for most people. So if it sounds interesting to you, then you guys should definitely give it a watch. I think it's a really good little film. And so let's talk a little bit about it first. So this movie is all about a family in 1975 Cambodia that is being forced into these concentration camps, basically these communal farms by the Khmer Rouge. Is that the correct way you say it?
The Khmer Rouge, I believe.
Khmer Rouge. And so it is some tough topics, and we'll go into detail. But what was your overall thoughts about the film?
Well, I thought it was a really fascinating film. It's such a compelling and moving story, a really heavy family drama. But I mean that as almost as a compliment, though. I mean, it's really, you just feel the weight of this family and what they're going through. My only experience really from a film sense with the Khmer Rouge, the horrific regime of the Khmer Rouge, was the movie The Killing Fields. I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it. My mom told me about it, and it's one that she found moving. Yeah,
it's very moving. Again, just similar to this, and it's just such a horrific tragedy. Just how horrible these humans can treat each other. And I think overall, though, too, this was just a really great example of animation as a medium, not rather than so many people think of it, animation as a genre, and mostly a genre for little kids' entertainment.
Right?
It's just, this was such. It was a really interesting way to tell the story. So I think kudos to the director and to the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of really interesting stuff about this film, in that they have a press kit, and the director Dennis Do, he made this movie based on his mother's story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't think he was. It sounds like because the press materials say that he was born in France, and so I take it he wasn't. I initially was wondering if he's the young boy in the film, which we'll be talking about, but it doesn't sound like it.
No, I
think
it's
about his
like
mother.
Yeah, and he says, I've chosen animation as it is a passion of mine, but I also prefer to see my mother drawn rather than played by a real actress, because that implies more universality. The heroine of Funan is Cambodian, but first and foremost, a woman, a mother. Animation is an ideal medium to captivate the audience by giving them perspective from reality. The film is realistic while preserving space for interpretation. In subtle ways, it will provoke and evoke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was excellent.
Yeah.
Description of it, I would agree. Like, oh yeah. I can see where he's coming from on that.
And that's what people miss when they just say the animation is just for kids, or it's just family audience, because they miss that ability that you can have with animation of really putting yourself into the story, and in a way that sometimes can be difficult for live action, because they're people, and so unless you super connect with that person, that I don't know, it's just a different thing, rather than I'm gonna almost jump into this painting metaphorically and enter this whole sort of world and experience it, whether it's a semi-realistic world or whether it's a complete fantasy world. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a special gift that only animation can provide.
Yes. Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think I really agree with what he has to say here about it. And it just helps you can control, I think, tone also in just a really special way with the colors and the style, the way that people are, because you have such control over every single aspect of their eyes, of their face, of their just everything when you're in animation. And I love the animation in this. I think it is so beautiful.
I did too. I thought it was really stunning.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and it was such a contrast between these beautiful almost tourist looking backgrounds of the suns and the sky, and then the just horrors of what is happening at this camp. And it really made it all the more meaningful to me. And the way that the director used shadow frequently to show like a person would kind of have their head down and you'd only see like a thin streak of light on them. And I don't know, it worked so well.
Yes, I agree. And really one of the strong points of the film, I mean, it's all good, but just because the animation and the artistry is so excellent, I think that really elevates it too.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, I think this could have gotten more Oscar play, but I think that G-Kids had a pretty bad year. And I hope that that Netflix isn't becoming the new G-Kids, because they had the two indie films nominated and not G-Kids. But I think the other problem is I think the G-Kids put a lot of eggs in Weathering With You basket. And and I thought that movie was fine. I have my review on. I enjoyed it. But it's not as good as I wanted it to be. And it's probably Makoto Shinkai's weakest film. And so I think that didn't pan out maybe the way that they'd hoped.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when that hits wide release. It's next week, isn't it? When or is it this week? No, it's this. I'm gonna actually see it tomorrow with my friend. I was gonna say, aren't they doing advanced screenings?
Yeah, and I posted my review on Rotoscopers. I gave it 3 out of 5, which I think was fair.
I do too. Yeah.
And then I also got to interview the band Radwimps, which was super cool.
Good.
Yeah, and they're they did Your Name and Weathering With You.
Yeah.
So it's like my first interview with rock stars. That was very exciting.
Yeah. Well, cool. I wonder about with G-Kids, because clearly they do good work, and they're able to get all these international titles, whatever the North American rights are for so many. But I don't know, it's weird that like a lot of them just don't make it to at least to our market. And I don't know if they're just playing in the big cities, and if they're just showing up kind of at art house cinema. Yeah. But I'm with you. It seems like Netflix is kind of where it's at. We're going to be able to where we'll be able to see some of this more.
Because I mean, we probably get at the Broadway. We probably get better than most as far as
they're good about programming animated films to the Broadway. Yeah,
but even so, it's tough, and you gotta be there in the small window that they.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the big challenge. Is just the window is so small. Yeah, it's like 2 weeks if you're lucky, right?
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but I think that it's certainly it has the quality of filmmaking that could have been nominated. It's of that quality.
I think so too. It just didn't get
the push
traction
that it needed.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about it. So it starts in the first act of the movie. Really is this big push of all of these people that are all being pushed in this mass exodus to this communal farm. And that's where our story kind of starts. And you have a pretty big group here with them. You have and I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce names terribly.
I was going to say, me too. I'm apologizing in advance about the names. Sorry.
There's Joe and Con.
Yes, the mom and dad who are kind of the key.
Yeah,
they're the key players, right. Principals in this film.
There's the mom and dad, and then they have 4 children. So they have Hote, Touche, and Lily, and then Sovana, who was a boy. And then there's also Khon's brother, Meng, and then their grandmother, and who's not, I don't think she's ever given a name, but a grandmother.
I don't think she's given a name either. Yeah.
And so what happens is, through various things, they end up getting separated from Sovna in this mass kind of exodus. He stops.
And I think that was, again, trying to remember back from the killing fields and just what I read about this horrible, regime of the Khmer Rouge, is that they didn't care about families. They were just, kicking people out, forcing them out of their homes and into these horrible camps. And then families were getting separated. They were just, and just horrific. It was just absolutely horrific. What a nightmare.
Yeah, and the idea, I guess, is supposedly that the communal farm is supposedly going to be better than a family or something like that. I'm sure there's some kind of ideology that justified that in their eyes, and then it's just a very traumatic scene, because obviously they're very upset about getting separated from their son, and it turns out that there is an entire camp just for the children, but it ends up being the Sovana and the grandma end up together, kind of, and then you have the rest of the group, and there's really quite a bit that happens
I know, right?
in this thing, and a lot of it is tough. So if there's some things that are probably R-rated that we're going to talk about, so just warning, if you're listening with kids. So okay, then basically, then they find out, they get to the town, and they find out that their cousin named Sok has become one of the revolutionaries. So he's become one of them. So he becomes a figure. And I don't know, just all this whole act, I just thought was so well done and so gripping, and
me too.
I just felt for all the characters.
It just, it instantly grabs you, and the story really moves. And there's a lot, as you say, there's a lot of horrible stuff that happens, but there's just a lot of plot.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of stuff going on, and yeah.
Yes, and the director, he says, I wanted the staging to be sober, with its calm atmospheres and the immensity of the Cambodian landscapes. Funan dives into the interiority and conveys the paradoxes of the characters' souls. Their tortured spirits contrast with the peaceful and various landscapes. Funan tells the story of a country and a culture that is rich, yet starving and barbaric. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so what starts out is that, so Cho, the mom, she tries to get permission to go after Sovna, but she is refused. And then Khon, the dad, tries to cross the river, but he's captured and beaten. And then they give their last valuables to a woman who's going to seduce the Khmer Rouge. She's going to try to get medicine for Tuck, but Tuck ends up dying.
Yeah, before she can get back.
Mm-hmm. She comes back. She's unsuccessful, but the other women beat her because they're disgusted with her, and so she ends up leaving her son to Cho, the mom, to raise, and so that is all very just crazy. And then, I mean, and it's all about, like, can these people under these environment, like, maintain their dignity and their integrity, and, like, will they become animals, like they're being treated like animals?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Where Viktor Frankl's is
absolutely,
he has to sort of pretend that he can talk to his wife just so that he has one thing that's keeping his humanity. And
yeah,
it's really moving stuff. And so then you have Sok trying to help Kon to find Sovna, and we also go back and forth, and we see Sovna with Grandma, and there it's just a nightmare. And then you see the brother Meng. He is unhappy. He tries to escape, and there's a pretty dramatic scene where Kon follows him just to kind of say goodbye, and then there's a Kon goes after him, and the guards find him, but Sok kills the guards, and so then you have Kon and Cho going back, but then Sok is killed. So then, you know, that whole scene I thought was very intense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because he's just trying to say goodbye at one point, and then everything's just escalate very quickly.
Yeah, it escalates quickly. And, you know, the Khmer Rouge were just so ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's almost like it kind of felt like a Prison Break movie a bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And of course, you get to see the good in Sok, who had been with the revolutionaries.
Yeah.
And
Sok has a noble death, right? Doesn't he? Yeah. Sok, yeah.
Yep. So Kon saves the daughter of a Khmer Rouge a soldier from drowning in a well, and that sort of starts a whole plot line, because Cho is mad at him for doing that. She says, "How could you do that?" And her name is it's Peuv, Puev, I think. Puev.
Yeah.
And so then they separate the men from the women at that point, and you have Puev trying to give food to Cho, but she's still mad and she refuses. And then there's a whole plot line, which is one of the most devastating of the whole movie, where the grandma encourages Lily to go and to flirt with this officer, and he rapes her, and she commits suicide.
She kills herself. I mean, it's just devastating. She hangs herself outside the camp, and it's so sad, and of course devastating for the mother and for everybody, you know.
Yeah, it's brutal. And then when Holt comes back and he finds out what happened, he burns the guard that raped her.
Yeah, he burns them alive, basically, right? I mean, he just yeah.
And then the grandma character dies of starvation.
Yeah, she starves to death. I mean, it's just like thing after thing, you know. Yeah. And this poor family, you just, I mean, and I think one of the things that totally breaks my heart. I mean, no duh, but here we're just getting kind of the spotlight on one family, but this is happening to everybody.
Yeah, right.
And you know what a tragedy.
But it's not as hopeless as it sounds. Like, I don't know, it still manages through the music, through the, like, you still I don't know, like, it's very, very sad, but it's still, there's still some hope for the characters.
You know, oh, absolutely. And you know, the mom and dad, Cho and Quan, I'm sure I'm messing up the names. they still have got this drive to survive and to try to keep their family together as much as they can, and that never leaves them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you. So that I felt like really gives it this hope and purpose, and in a way becomes that's what really inspired me, because rather than just give up, they persevere.
Yeah. And and she never gives up on finding her son.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. And so I think it goes a year or maybe even more.
Yeah, there's a time lapse, right? Again.
Yeah. And so you see Cho in a hospital, and she reunites with Kon, and
he finds her, which they don't give the details, but I was so relieved. What a miracle.
Me too. And he tells her he found Sovana, and the Cambodian-Vietnamese War has begun, and so.
And I can't remember the years, and I did look up. I guess maybe we could check, when that war started. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know either. But they're able to find. They're able to find their son.
1978.
Okay, yeah. So they were in the fields for 3 years.
Yeah,
3 years, and so they decide that they're going to go try for the Thailand border, and before they get there, there's an execution by the Khmer Rouge, and there's an amazing scene where Cho confronts the group. She opens up her chest, and you see the beatings, and you see the scars on her chest and of what she has suffered, and she gets them to stop killing this woman. And it's a very powerful,
really powerful, moving scene. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then they reach the border, and so Kon, he's seen by the guards, and so he basically kind of distracts the guards so that Sovan and Cho could run across the border, and he ends up getting killed, but they end up getting across that border, and it's just a real triumphant moment for sure.
Oh, it is. It's like triumph and tragedy. But the dad, Kon, gives his last act is saving his wife and son, and it's one of those things. It's so sad, but also all three of them would have died had he not done that. And at least that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, like sometimes in these kind of indie films, like the narrative isn't so traditional, if that makes sense. Like they try to, and sometimes I enjoy that, the artistry and the more abstract choices, but I kind of really appreciated that this movie could be a Steven Spielberg movie if it was live action.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, as far as the structure and
Empire of the Sun, kind of style. Yeah. Cambodia. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I really think so. And it would probably be up for a bunch of Oscars if it was live action.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just it's a very classic as far as that kind of structure and having that ending, which evidently is true to life, that happened for his mother, and that he wanted to tell her journey as his first feature film. And I just think that's really impressive, and I'm just so glad that we live in an era where the making of these kinds of films is available, and I'm grateful to the investors and the people and the funds and the all the different stuff that has to go into the stipends and government support and all the different stuff that kind of has to happen in order for something like this to be made. And because it's just it's somebody making something about their mother, and it's just a beautiful story about a family triumphing over the worst odds you could ever imagine. And so I don't know, it just makes me grateful.
Yes, I hear you. It is one of those films where you just feel so grateful for what you have, and then also you just feel inspired by these people that really went through something difficult and were able to, get through. Although only 2 of the 6 in the family survive, but still with those 2, and then
when everybody was important all along the way, they couldn't have done it without. There was all part of it. Was the whole family really was succeeding and triumphing with those 2 people crossing the
that's true.
And so I really enjoyed it. This is definitely something, if people ask me for a hidden gem or something like that from 2019, this is definitely one that I will kind of push on people, because I think it's a really beautiful film with it's tough. It's tough to watch, but I really, really liked it, and I'd be really excited to see what this director will do next.
Me too. I really hope he's working. That Dennis Do, she mentioned his name. I really hope he's working on another animated project. I believe this one was based out of France, because he's French, Chinese, Cambodian, I think is what they're saying. He is. But I know that on iTunes they had it in both English dub and French dub. I of course watched the English dub, but I think that it originally was French.
Did they have any like stars or anything like that in it? The dub, the English dub.
I don't know. I couldn't find the cast list, and it didn't show it. At least maybe it did at the very, very end of the credits, and I missed it.
Because I watched it with subtitles. I watched it subbed. Because
so in French with this. Okay.
Because that's what it was on the screener.
Okay.
That they sent me. But yeah, it is like we said, it's very easily available. So people should check it out. And evidently, the director was at Animationist Film in LA. And
in LA.
My friend Cameron said that he was just the sweetest guy, sweetest man, and so proud of it, as he should be. And so anyway, it's pretty cool. So yeah, if any of you listening get a chance to see this film, let me know what you think, and we'd be really, really curious. Put in the comment section or on Twitter what you think of Funan. And so that's it, I think, for this movie. And so we'll be excited. We'll come up with something fun to talk about in February. Let us know if you have any suggestions for obscure animation. We always like to hear those.
Oh, so, absolutely.
So Stanford, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and then I have a movie blog and podcast at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. Yeah, and I'll have that all in the description section. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, where you can see my reviews. Where you can see my reviews of all of the films that I watched in that screening session. So all the indie animation from G Kids I have on Rotten Tomatoes. You can check out my reviews. So check that out. And so thanks so much. This was really fun. And
Great, Rachel. Thank you.
We'll talk again next month. Bye, everybody.
Bye.